this webinar. Just talking about outside plant managing fiber strands. So in our tool, Net Terrain, we allow you to do things, document connectivity. So connections between devices, patch panel to server, switch, routers, all that good stuff. But if you're using fiber bundles, cable with multiple strands, 6-strand, 12-strand, whatever, got customers, I guess, use 2,000 strands, some crazy big cables. You need a way to manage that in some way. Most folks probably use Excel. But that's what we're going to be covering. This is me down here. I don't do much in the PowerPoint, so I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time. But if you have questions, there's a little raise your hand, or there's some button in that Zoom where you can post a question, so feel free to do that. Just throw it in the Q&A. Unless there's a problem with sound or something. Hopefully you guys all hear me. I don't see any problems there. So just let me know, but at the end, I'll probably answer the questions. Let's see here. We're going to do a polling question. We usually do a couple of those. So that's time for the first polling question. Polls. Oh, no, we don't have any questions today, it looks like. Okay, well, that makes it easy. Let me just make sure I'm not screwing that up. Sometimes I'm technically inept at this Zoom stuff. Anyway, so I guess we got no polls today, no polling questions, which is fine. But what we're going to be covering basically outside plant, talking about strands, the interfaces, and all that good stuff, and what that means. So you can do outside plant, inside plant, and so on. So we can just get to the show. But if you do have questions at the end, post them. But if you want to get in touch with us, you can reach out, sales@graphicalnetworks.com. You can call the phone number on our website. Call Freddie here. Send us a letter, although no one's in the office, so I probably won't get it. It's like a tree falling in the forest, I guess. Does anybody here? I guess if a letter gets delivered, is it really a letter? Anyway, so enough of that. I got to stop my share and start it again because I need to switch gears to Chrome. Let's share. All right. So managing fiber and fiber strand. So with Net Terrain, we're a hierarchical tool, and you can drill down and drag and drop and so on. So here I got a whole bunch of stuff. I'm going to delete all this stuff, and I'm going to go in and just show you, sort of managing cables. So I'm going to bring in a building or two, but actually I should add a map here before we do anything. So let's add a map. So with our managing fiber for us, we refer to it as outside plant, but really it could be inside also. But you need the OSP module in order to do fiber and fiber strands. But with that, you get the integration with OpenStreetMaps. So you can, find a particular area of interest and add it in. I'm not in Halifax. I'm near Washington, D.C., but Halifax looks interesting. So I'm going to go use Halifax as my map. I've never been there. So we're going to zoom in a bit on Halifax. We'll add a couple buildings and just show you how we can manage some strands. So if I grab a building here, drag it in, it's way too big. So we'll make it a little, oh, look, it's a Halifax shipyard. So we'll call this the shipyard. All right, cool. And then we'll add another building down here. No idea what that is. Looks like it's in French. We'll assume I'll call it the Smith building. Pretty easy to do. Now, if you, as part of outside plant, you might want to show paths, maybe a physical path. You might also show things like manholes or handles. I'll show you examples of that, but I'm going to add a conduit here. So we'll go ahead and drag in a conduit between my buildings. Add that in. And then I could add some bend points for this. So if this is going to follow a specific path, we can have it do that. Something like that. It's a pretty intricate path there. I'll move this bend point out though. So something along those lines. Yeah, so there's a conduit. And then, but what we're here for is some strands. So I'm going to do something simple like add just a patch panel. I got to go into my devices though if I'm going to add one. So I usually use the let me see if I have the patch, the CCH. I usually like this Corning. Let's see if I have some cards in here. I'll add a card. Oops. Card. Got an LC vertical. Seems like the right direction. So we'll call this the shipyard patch panel, right? So we'll call this shipyard. So then if I come out of here and then my playground and go into Smith, right? Smith patch panel. And this is just to kind of show you what you can do in that terrain, kind of what we're about, drag and drop. Now, if I want to grab myself a cable, something with some strands, I got a 24 strand here, we'll use that. So I need to connect 2 points together. So what I'll typically do is connect from, let's say, patch panel to patch panel with my cable. Again, if there's manholes in between, I might have strands getting spliced and all that stuff, but this is just a quick sort of simple example here. So I'm going to keep it easy on myself. I'll show you maybe some other diagrams a little bigger, but here we have that cable. Nope, I didn't want to do that. But if we go to the map level, you'll see that there's a 24 strand that runs here. And then this is the conduit. What I really want to do is take this and bundle it inside the duct, or sorry, the conduit. So I'll do a bundle with copied links. So now this is technically inside this. So I'm not even going to show that 24 strand anymore. Turn it off. So now I got my conduit. And if I look down here on the left, it says bundled links 1. So that tells me I have one cable inside the conduit. So nothing terribly hard to do. You could also do this with like Excel. You could import all the stuff I just did. So if you have thousands of connections and things, it's usually easier and better to do that way. But the point is, now I've got a conduit, I got a cable runs between 24 strand cable, but now we need to manage the strands. I mean, that's kind of what this whole thing was about, managing strands. So what I need to do is basically get back down into the to the level where I see this cable. And this cable, when I look at it, this is just a reference node, by the way. It's just telling me that this patch panel in the shipyard is connected to the Smith building patch panel. But this is the 24 strand cable. And if I look at the interface, this helps me manage the actual strands. So this is the interface I would use to manage those strands, where I go in and say, okay, now I want to connect the actual strands that are inside this cable between 2 points. I mean, the cable itself usually comes into the building, maybe in the basement, and then sort of terminates. And then you got to take the strands off of it and put those into something like a LIU, patch panel, whatever it happens to be. And I'm certainly no expert on all these different pieces of hardware out there. You know, you guys that actually do hands-on with the strands and stuff would know about the interfaces and the proper terminology. But ultimately, what you're looking to do is, one, you got to put the cable somewhere, and then two, you got to terminate your strands. So this is what you use to terminate the strands. This tells you I've got 24. I can scroll down and see the 24. They're numbered. You can rename these if you want for this particular cable. Buffer tube color, strand color, and then you get the button here to edit the strand terminations. And this allows me to go in like the Smith patch panel, card A, or the shipyard card A, and connect the strands. So I can go the B side to B side or B side to F side. That's whatever. So I'll do B to F, right? Back to front. Or maybe it's front to front or back to back. I'll do back to back. And then I can use the buttons down here. So if they're consecutive, I can just hit next and go through. If there's a whole bunch, I can do them all at once. Of course, I could skip. I could not connect certain ones. Maybe I'm going to leave them out, or maybe they're bad, and then I'll just mark those as bad. So if I come down through here, you know, I got too many, so I have to disconnect, come back, disconnect. Went a little bit crazy there. So disconnect them up, right, and close that. And then if you have other strands, you know, you could maybe set it as a bad strand. You could exclude it from what we call the acro, which is the thing that does the calculation to determine paths between 2 points. If you're going to use that, that's certainly something you use. You can also put in information, you know, customer, make comments, whatever it happens to be, associated with a circuit. It'll create the circuit for you, the path, or calculate that. But if we go look at this at the patch panel level all the way down, you'll notice that on the patch panel, the B side, you have all these colors, and that's the color of the strand that's connected. So if we go to B2 here, it tells you it's strand 2, the buffer tube color's blue, and then it's part of the 24 strand fiber cable. I didn't actually name that cable. Normally you'd want to name your cables. So for instance, if I change this, not just call it a 24 strand fiber, but maybe 24 fiber Smith to Shipyard. A lot of you guys probably use just some numbering, crazy generic numbering or whatever. But if I come back in here and I look at this, so it says 24 fiber to Shipyard. So I know what cable and what strand is connected to this particular port, right? So now you've got a lot of information. You know the cable, you know the strands, you know how they're connected, and so on. And you know this cable is part of, if we go up, we know this cable is, you know, connected between these 2 points, and it's also inside, it's got a container. And I know this cable is part of this particular conduit, right? So the, if I do show on diagram, it will basically take me to it and say, hey, here I am. So that's how we, you know, you start to build out connections. And if you have lots and lots, which a lot of you might, you know, many buildings, many patch or manholes, handholes, which is fine. Then you get into doing things with automation, using Excel import, bringing data maybe from data sources and things like that. It just depends on your system and what you guys have. So, but to show off some examples, a little more detailed, let's go here to U of M. So this one actually shows sort of like what I was showing there, where you had a map. This is more, a lot more paths, right? Oops, didn't mean to do that. So let me do an arrange and undo that. Let me zoom in. So you got like here, multiple buildings, multiple segments, conduit, ducts, whatever you guys use. Here I've got manhole. In this manhole, I've got a device, a CommScope FOSC. And inside that has the different, you know, the CommScope splice cards. And if you go into one of those, you'll see the tray and the connections. So you've got one side connection to another side of the connection. So one side port, the other side port. This is acting as the splice between the two. So this is a strand coming in from the 72 strand fiber cable, and it's connecting up to a 288 strand fiber cable. Okay. So you're splicing those together. I don't think I have the background image on this thing. So let me turn that on. So then we can see, you know, the actual splice, you know, case, and so on. So, but that's how that works. And if I double click on this link, the splice itself, it'll show me the path between the two fiber cables, and then any other, if there's other strands that are connected together. So this is showing you the full path. It's showing you a device port connected to a fiber patch panel. That patch panel connects over to the splice in the manhole, and that splice in the manhole connects to another splice. There's actually a different manhole. It's manhole 1, manhole 2. And then that in turn splices through back to another patch panel in a different building, Jimenez Hall, and then ultimately terminates to a 48 port patch panel, separate patch panel. So it's gonna be the full path. So you can see, and it goes across, it's different hierarchies and things like that. You can also build circuit paths. So those are defined paths. And I think I have one. Let me jump to another project here, another demo project. That allows you to see, get out of this one. So once you have all this data in the system, you can do what we call the ACRA. It's an algorithm to determine a path, to calculate a physical path between 2 points. So if I'm going from something like Canton to Greektown, it's a little hard to see. Zoom in a little, right? And I want to know if there's fiber in between these 2 points. What is that path? Does it exist? I don't know if there is. Let me do show full circuit. Oh, sorry, I have to log on. It's helpful if I log in. So once I'm logged in, then I can do the calculation, because you have to be at least a editor to do that. So now we can go back and do Canton to Canton to Greektown. So select those two and tools, circuits, create new circuit, and it calculates the strands that are available. So it tells me which strands I have, and it's going to choose the first 2. You can change that if you want to. And then you can choose what kind of path it's going to go. Do you want end to end or edge to edge? Edge to edge is usually like the patch panel to patch panel, where end to end is going down to basically the device level, and having it, show that path. So then you go through and have it create a path between the 2, and the circuit. See if I have any defined circuits in here. Looks like I do. We can view the path, the circuit path. So these are defined circuits. You name them, you would name the circuit path. And in the circuit, it's basically taking the strands out of the system. It's saying these strands are dedicated to this particular, to this circuit, and that circuit might be some process or procedure that you're going to follow. If I go back to my full circuit list for this particular one, we can look at the CLR, and this is a circuit CLR. So we have 2 different CLRs, a swim lane and then this circuit. So this shows you that at the top, it shows you the path that's basically across the map, Greektown through Manhole, through Canton. So this is in Greektown, you've got this equipment device, jumper patch to port on a device. And this is the cable, and these are the strands that are being used, strand 5 and 6. And then this is the information about the interface. And then it's connecting through the manhole, and it's showing you effectively, again, the full path between the 2. But when you create a circuit, it takes these strands out of the system and reserves them for the circuit. So when it goes to do the calculation, again, it's not going to use these strands anymore. Those are effectively in use. So that helps you manage all those strands and circuits and so on. Anyway, if there's any questions, let me know. But with respect to NetTerrain, you'll notice that you're not only doing outside plant, you're doing fiber, the fiber strands, you're doing the conduits and ducts if you need to, and showing the full path between 2 points. But also you're going inside the buildings as well, inside the manholes, and showing all those things. So, all right. Let me see if there's questions up here. Let me stop the share. I'll reshare if I need to, but the maps, what maps are these? The maps are OpenStreetMaps. So that's what we integrate with as OSM. Currently, that's the only map we integrate with. It's very detailed, latitude, longitude, etc. It's very good. It's been around forever. It's, you can actually manage the underlying map if you want to go into OpenStreetMaps and add things to it. You can certainly do that. Patch panels, do we need to create them, or is it included? Patch panels are, they're part of the software. We have lots of devices, thousands of device types. And if they're not there, you can request devices from us through our Zendesk portal. You can ask us, hey, we'd like to use a patch panel XYZ. Can you model it for us? And then we send it to you. Is NetTerrain desktop or cloud? Well, so you log in through your browser. So like I was using my Chrome browser to do everything, and you just log in. We do, as far as licensing goes, we offer a cloud option. So if you want us to host it for you, we can, or you can get the software and install it yourself. It's Windows software, so you need to, you would have to install on a Windows server and use SQL Server as the database, but you could use a VM, and an existing database too, for that matter. If you want to put it into some farm, you can certainly do that. Can I send these to my contractors? Sure. You can export them, or you can give them an access to your project that maybe you did, and then they can be in as read-only users. So that's an option. You could export PDF, diagrams. There's other export options too, but those are probably the primary ways. Give them access, read-only, or export the diagrams. So, all right. Anything else? Don't see any other questions. All right. Well, if you guys have questions, issues, troubles, let us know. Happy to help out or answer any questions, see if it's the right fit for you, the software. You can try it out, netterrain.com, sign up. I will say there's a little bit of a learning curve with Outside Plant. So unless you want to read the user guide, which is about 400 pages, there is some dedicated space for Outside Plant. You can certainly do that. It might take a little time to get started, but if you have questions or you want us to sit with you for 15, 20, 30 minutes, we can walk you through it and how to do things. Can I import diagrams? Yeah, it depends. You can do like a Visio import, but it's going to be different than the way we do things. So it converts it, but they're going to be nodes, so it's a little different. So it depends on the diagrams. Now, if you're talking about just an image, like a background image, you can import that too. It's got to be like a JPEG, PNG, etc. So if it's just going to be more as a background image, then you have more options there. But as far as importing, just kind of depends. Data from Pinnacle. I'm not familiar with Pinnacle, so you might have to ask us, but you can, we support a lot of different ways of importing, not just Excel, but we have these things called connectors that we create to systems using their APIs, so we can pull data with that. We have a lot of pre-built connectors to different systems. I don't think Pinnacle's one. I can't say I'm really familiar, but yeah, you can talk to us about that. We might be able to create a connector, or I don't know. Maybe you don't even need it. Maybe they have an export to CSV. I have Google Earth. Can I import them? Yeah, you can if Google Earth uses a format, XML, KML, KMZ, something like that. So we do have an import for that, and it will lay out on a map and show you the objects and, try and convert those things over. So it just depends on what you have and what you put into it. A lot of these systems they're a little limited on us what we can import, because they don't give you a lot from the export side, and their APIs sometimes are limited. But the KMZ KML import works pretty well with the Google Earth, so I've done that. You can export out to Google Earth. So it kind of just depends on what you're doing there. But all right, I think that's it. Thanks everybody for your time. Really appreciate it. Enjoy the rest of your day, and again, reach out if you have any questions. Thanks a lot.